Hello, Mark Red Larson here for the Dreamcatcher podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today, my guest is Jillie Maria. Welcome, Jilly.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to the two conversations we've had have been excellent. So I'm looking forward to this one too. So,
Same.
Jilly, we just really haven't known each other very long. A little bit of background about yourself.
Sure. So I am an anger alchemist. I am a transformational catalyst. I am an intuitive medium. I'm a psychic. I talk to dead people and objects. I am also an Akashic Records practitioner. An Akashic Records practitioner is someone who reads the Akashic Records, which are a record of your thoughts, your soul's every thought, word, and deed since its inception. I
Uh-huh.
also do trauma and emotion coaching and counseling and healing, and probably have 15 or so modalities under my belt. And I'm
Wow.
expanding into anger alchemy this year because I think our world would be a whole different world if people learned how to um, handle their anger and they realize they don't have an anger
Mhm.
management problem. They have a failure to feel their emotions. um,
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
so
Yeah.
I do all of those things, and I love my life, and if you told me 5, 10 years ago that this would be my life, I would have laughed in your face. And it's
I
a
know.
blessing to live, and it's also I get to meet some extraordinary people like yourself, and I get to do some extraordinary things
Right.
like this podcast, and I get to share with a new audience who I am and what I do and why it matters, and I love that.
Very cool. So, what were you doing 5 or 10 years ago before this?
Um, well, I mean, I had been a intuitive coach for about 2 years at that point. I
Okay.
didn't really realize that I was all the things that I am, when I was little, but I can look back on it now and tell you that I was seeing apparitions, I was seeing dead people as a child. So
Wow.
that gift goes all the way back to childhood, and, I saw the apparition of the gentleman who built my grandparents' house on my bottom of my grandparents' step. I was probably about 10 years old at that point,
Okay.
and I told my grandma when I was probably in my 30s, I think, and
Mhm.
I was kind of afraid to say anything because when I was a little kid, everybody just said that I had a really active imagination.
Yeah, I could see him saying that, yep.
And I think, a lot of parents do that because they don't really know how to handle their own emotions. They don't know how to handle things that go against religious
True.
upbringing or societal upbringing, or they're terrified of,
Yes.
like, if we say that our kid, saw a little girl glowing in a field in the pitch
Mhm.
black dark of night, then they're going to think that she needs institutionalization or something.
Yeah. Something,
And
yes.
so it's easier to just be like, "Oh, isn't she cute?" And be like, um,
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
as opposed to recognizing that that's a gift. And
Ooh.
I started doing coaching in 2014-ish or so, and
Okay,
I was a virtual assistant,
okay.
and so I did all kinds of administrative stuff from my home. And I didn't think I'd be doing that forever, mind you, but I didn't
Mhm.
really know, like, I kinda hit a point in my life where I was like, "I can't be doing this forever," but I don't really know what the next move is.
I know how that is, yes.
And so I had been coaching a couple people, and they were, when I would give them advice, when I would tell them what I was, feeling about the situation, at first people thought it was just really wise advice, and then as I would share things with them and they would actually happen, and they'd say,
Mhm.
"Can I pay you for this? Because that really helped me out a lot." And so I kinda just was like,
Mhm,
"Pay
okay.
whatever you want." And it has grown into now being programs that I work with people, one-on-one, and also, again, like I said, moving this year into one-to-many, and
Yep.
working with people around, learning to feel their emotion, because most of us growing up heard our parents, grandparents, caretakers say something along the lines of, "If you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about."
Yep, yep. Exactly.
Because they didn't have the capacity, they had never learned to feel emotions, number 1. And number 2, they had so much trauma and stuff suppressed in them that when you would cry, they would, or you would get upset, they, like, on the one hand, they wanted to comfort you, but on the other hand, they also had stuff coming up.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. Yes.
And they were super uncomfortable with it. So rather than saying, like, come here, like, let's just walk through this, like, let it out, blah, 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 and like going,
Right.
okay, breathing and just managing your own stuff as an adult because they didn't know how,
Mhm.
they would just basically threaten you. And so you would just be like, so our nervous
Yes.
system, our body, our mind took that in. It is not safe to feel emotions.
Yep.
It's not safe to
Exactly.
cry. It's not safe to get angry. It's not safe to do any of these things. So we get to
Yep.
a space now where we ingest all of these things and then we road rage or we yell at the barista and we lose our mind over not having cream in our coffee, or we go
Yeah.
online
Oh,
and
yes.
we lose our crap over something that has nothing to do with
Mhm.
tea in China.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
are dysregulated. We are, and we don't, and like, I will say, one of my biggest breakthroughs as an adult was, and it was completely unintentional, was having a conversation with my grandma one day. It completely like just a nonchalant grandma
Yep.
and me conversation. And
Right,
she,
right.
honey, we didn't have the luxury of feeling emotions. The world was on fire. We were in a world war and we didn't have the luxury of feeling emotions. There was dead people everywhere. And she's like, and I never
Wow.
taught my kids, to include your mom, um, and therefore you kids, you grandkids never learned to feel emotions because I never taught you.
Right, right, yeah.
Well, crap. Like,
Yeah.
feeling emotions was viewed as a luxury, like,
Yeah. Which is interesting.
so,
Mm.
so many of us now don't have that life skill. Because think about, and I tell people when, when they feel some kind of way about not being able to feel their emotions, I'm like, stop, think about what you do that's rote. You brush your teeth, you put on deodorant, you take a shower, you drive your car, you put
Right,
gas in your car, you charge your phone, you drink
right,
water.
yeah. Yep.
All the things that you do functioning every single day.
Mhm.
You
Yes.
learned from somebody. You were taught those things.
Exactly, yes.
Because literally the only thing you know how to do as a child is go to the bathroom, cry, and eat.
Yep.
And so everything else, you figure out how to smile by watching someone else smile. You figure out
Mhm.
how to throw a tantrum. You figure out
Right.
how to get someone's attention. You figure out how to get attention. You figure out how to do all these things because someone either mirrors it to you or physically shows you, like teaches it to you. And so
Right.
the same thing is true of our anger, our
Mhm.
emotions, and I hyphenate emotion. And people always say, why do you hyphenate it? Because it's just energy and motion that wants to move through you. The problems
Okay.
arise when we start to try to suppress it. Like when we get to a space where, or we push it away. So like someone comes to
Right.
you and they're grieving and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm crying. Or you say, okay, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because you are feeling something and you don't know how to hold the space for them.
Right.
So you're like, okay, gotta push that down, gotta push that down, gotta push that down. Because you don't
Yeah.
have the skills or capacity and you don't want to feel some kind of way or have like your 30 years of stuff gusher. So you're like, okay, I
Yeah.
gotta stop them and I gotta stop me.
Yeah.
And so, I remember, for example, when one of my best friends passed away and, we're at his celebration of life. And
Mhm.
a lot of people were in tears and whatever, and I would just like hold people and say, go ahead, just cry. It's cool, so it's
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
And people would be like, no, 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 I'm okay, because they didn't feel like they had the vulnerability to be like, I'm like, okay, so take a minute, so breathe,
Mhm.
because so
Yes.
often we're in the space of feeling like almost feeling naked and feeling our emotions. Like fear-based emotions,
Yes.
it's like
Yes.
we've
Yeah.
never
Yes.
learned, and we don't also feel comfortable feeling like anger toward a parent. Like if a parent didn't show up for us, and the number of people that I see, like I'll see clients that'll say things like, well, my dad or my mom was always there growing up, so how can I feel? I'm like, well, they weren't there emotionally. Like they could have been physically present,
Yeah. Kind of, but not. Yeah.
but they didn't know how to feel emotions. They didn't know, like, if you cried, they would either, either smack you, or again, if you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about,
Yep.
or
Yep.
they would check out, like they would go in
Hmm.
another room. And so
Yes.
your mind went into, your nervous system went into, well, I don't want people to abandon me, so I guess I just can't. That emotion's not safe to feel because people leave.
E- exactly.
And so those are the shifts that, that I work on teaching people, like how to safely feel their emotions and get into the space. And I tell people, I'm like, you want a super easy hack for it? Get in your
Hmm.
car, go to a parking lot, like go on the edge of a parking lot, Food Lion, Target, Walmart, whatever. That's
Right.
kind of
Right.
dark dust, like you're jamming out, right? Turn your music up
Yeah. There you go.
and
Yep.
just scream. Like just hold the steering wheel
Yeah.
and just scream. Because here's the thing, opening your jaw releases emotion. Emotion
Okay.
gets stuck in our jaws. And so being able to be in a space where you're like helps your body.
Interesting. Okay. I,
So but the
I gotta
thing is
try that.
too, is I recommend it. And I also recommend, if you're in a
Yeah.
space where, like, if you can scream in the shower without alarming anybody, like I know one of my clients lives in an apartment complex with
That
paper thin
might be
walls, like,
pretty. Yeah. Yeah.
but there's easy things you can do to let yourself feel emotions. And also when you're in a space where you feel like you start to realize, like, if your parent was a rageaholic,
Hmm.
or
Okay.
if you grew up with a narcissist, if you grew up with somebody who
Yeah. Can
um
imagine.
lost their mind over like little tiny things, like didn't let you just, like,
Mhm.
kids are going to have emotions, kids are going to have
Sure.
hormones, and they're going to
Yes.
have all the things. And being in a
Yes.
space where you can't just be like, okay, let's just scream it out, like let's just scream it
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
And
No.
we don't know how to do that as a society, and so it shows up as,
True.
getting into rando fights with people about things that it's like, really,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Such little. Yeah. Piddly things. Yes.
so so I think that's, that was kind of what started me into this journey of, like, how do I teach people to safely do this, and how could the world be different if, because we wouldn't be leavers if we're in a space where we're no longer running around angry, we're not showing up at protests necessarily, we still might be,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
we're not being able to be triggered as much. And a lot of people I see in spiritual
Of
spaces
course.
will be like, I'm good, whatever. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Surrounding yourself with people who agree with you 100% is not where it's at,
It is not. Definitely not.
because you're never challenged. And
Exactly.
one of the things I say is, is insecurity is the loudest voice in the room,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I would agree.
because so many people get into spaces where they're looking for somebody. They don't want to be alone. Like they feel some kind of way,
Hmm.
but they don't want to be in there alone, in their anger, in their sadness, in their grief, in their shame, in their guilt, and they're feeling some kind of way.
Hmm.
So rather than just kind of sit in the space of like, wow, I'm feeling this kind of way, I wonder, let me see if I can feel it all the way through.
Right.
They glom to people who also feel that way.
Okay. Interesting. Yes.
Like misery loves company.
Yes. Yes. And very much.
As opposed to being in the space of like, wow, what if I just let myself feel angry and go, wow, I'm experiencing anger.
Hmm.
And again, I encourage, here's a language shift for you. Instead of saying
Okay.
I am angry, I am experiencing anger.
Interesting. With the one
Because here's
change
the
of the
thing.
word there.
Anything that you put after I am is powerful. It's part of becomes part of who you are if you say it enough times.
Yes. Yes.
And then if you're in a space where you're saying, I am angry, and you make it powerful, it's a
Yes.
false sense of power. But it's like if
Okay.
I'm angry and I'm in a versus, okay, and I'll go back to finish that in just a second, versus
Okay.
I'm experiencing anger.
I like that. Okay.
In this moment, I'm experiencing anger because, you know, my client's not returning to work with me, or I'm experiencing anger because my cat barfed on the floor, or I'm experiencing anger because my
Okay.
partner still isn't answering my text message, or for a
Right.
myriad of reasons
Yeah.
so I'm feeling the feeling of anger, and I'm breathing
Yes.
and going, okay, like if I'm in a space where I'm driving down the road and
Okay.
I'm minding my own, I'm in the right lane, I'm doing everything I gotta do, and somebody blows by me and there's like in traffic, and I see them almost cause 3 accidents in the space of 2 minutes.
Wow. Okay.
I'm experiencing anger, like, man, you could have just caused like 5 accidents. I had to slow down. Oh my
Yeah.
God, you're endangering all these people. And I'm
Yep.
feeling
Yep.
all these things, okay? And I'm breathing and I'm going, okay, you're fine. We're still having a good day. It's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful day. It's 65 degrees outside.
Yes.
We're going to do something we love. And I'm
Yes.
resetting myself and I'm letting the anger move through me.
Excellent.
As opposed to, man, I'm angry and I'm going to just hold on to that like with a death grip until somebody
Yeah.
validates my anger.
Very interesting. Yes.
Until somebody says, man, you had a right to be angry. That is so sad. I'm glad you're okay. But, man, I'd be pissed off too. Okay.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing: anger, grief, guilt, shame, sadness, resentment, frustration
Mhm.
become plaque in our emotional arteries.
Really? Okay. That's interesting too. Wow.
So if we're in a space where we keep saying, I'm angry, if you get to a certain point where you suddenly start to learn to feel your anger and process
Mm-hmm.
your anger, and you're like, phew, and you see people going down the road and they're almost causing an accident, and you slow down and you're like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
good, I'm safe, I'm going to turn up the radio, I'm going to
Yes.
just
Yes.
enjoy myself, it's all good. Okay.
Yes.
The difference is you're going to get to your destination and be like, and you might still be like,
Yeah.
wow, that was a
Be.
close call this morning. Or, oh my God, I'm still so angry. Oh!
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I've been both of those people. And
Me
at
too.
one point and I think we all are to a certain extent, but it's like when we get to the space of I'm experiencing anger, it's much easier to go, and now I'm letting it go. I don't need validation from anybody that my anger was appropriate. I don't need to tell
Mm-hmm.
anybody the story. I don't need to replay it necessarily, because a lot of times we're
Mm-hmm.
replaying it looking for someone to be like, "Oh man, that really sucks." We're looking to not be alone.
Yeah.
If I'm in a space where I'm like, yeah, that was really tense for a second, and then by the next
Yeah.
stoplight, I was like, you know what? Have the day you deserve.
Yes. Yes.
Thank God I didn't have to stop and call 911 and I don't want to see a car
Yes.
accident. I want to
Yes.
be on the
Yeah.
stairs over here. So
Yeah.
it's a shift in being like, okay, anything you say is I am angry, I am frustrated, I am whatever. It's like, okay, but what if you're experiencing it? You're not minimizing the emotion or the feeling that you're feeling. You're simply
Okay.
allowing yourself to go, I'm experiencing frustration because I thought someone was going to do X and they did Y.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yay.
Okay, cool. So how do I close that gap? Well, you can, for example, tell that person what you need. I need
Okay.
your help. It would be lovely if I had your support. Support would look like a hug. It
Right.
would be lovely to have, and I'll share with you something that initially scared the hell out of me to do it.
Okay.
Vulnerable moment. So I didn't grow up knowing how to advocate, and most of us didn't. I didn't grow up knowing how to advocate for what I wanted and needed. In fact, I didn't know until I was in my 30s that I could have needs. Like like bona fide, really, really getting into the space of like I had needs, we all do, but I really wasn't
Sure.
in a
Yes.
space of like realizing that, for example, in the 5 love languages test, my strongest, to anybody that knows me personally, no surprise, is quality time.
Okay. Awesome.
But I didn't know how to ask for quality time.
Okay, that's interesting.
So, for
So,
example, I went to see my family for Thanksgiving some years back, and I realized that my entire family was going to be there. And so I had a 10-hour drive to my family's house. And in that drive, I spent probably 6 hours ruminating and overthinking about how to ask for time and
okay.
recognizing that the only time I was going to have was on a drive to pick up part of my family at the airport. So I got to, and I kind of brought it up in advance and said, hey, it'd be really great to do this thing, to drive together and just have quality time together.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, well, blah, 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 blah. And I go, okay, will your car fit everybody that we're picking up at the airport and the 2 of us and our stuff? Well, yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And I'll be honest, the first time I did it, I was terrified of the ask because
I bet.
one, what if the person says no? And number two, if I don't have that time, which I crave, and it's actually like if you don't have the right plug to charge your cell phone, you're screwed.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
And so having the thing that you need that is your top love language, having that thing from somebody or sourcing it somehow, whether it's physical touch through a hug, whether it's one-on-one time, whether it's like doing acts of service or having them done for you, whatever it might be, okay, is
Mm-hmm.
actually critical
Okay.
for our well-being. Like it's really like
I
charging your
definitely
battery.
would agree on that. Yes.
And so
Yes.
a lot of us
Yes.
run on like a lot of us like we don't have our cell phone below 50%. Most of us don't like most of us have to have our cell phone a certain we all have that danger level.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Um like I will never understand people that are like, yeah, I only have 2% battery left and I'm looking at their screenshot going, dude, you need like the first thing I notice is not the thing on the screen, it's the your battery's at 2%, you need to charge your phone now.
Yes.
Okay? But so many of us will go negative in our own personal battery, right? In
Yeah.
other
Very
words,
true.
if you need quality time and you don't have it, and you will go into burnout without realizing it.
Right. Right.
And so many of it, and it affects our
Wow.
mental and emotional health. And so I got brave enough to say, hey, it occurs to me when I'm thinking about this thing that even though I'm super excited to have this time with our whole family together and it's really rare and yada, 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 I'm looking forward to everything, right? I said,
Mm-hmm.
I really need time, just the 2 of us one-on-one. And the only time in my mind I'm gonna get it and tell me if I'm wrong is when this happens. And the person
Mm-hmm.
said, "Oh, yeah, yeah, you're" oof." And I said, "So I would really love it if we could drive together to the airport to pick up the family and then drive to the
Cool.
beach. Like, that would be really awesome." And my
Yeah.
heart is in my throat while I'm making this ask.
I bet. Yes. Yes.
Because advocating for myself was still hard.
Oh, yes.
And a lot of us, it's difficult, even if we know we're worth it, blah, 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 we know we need a thing, we're still like,
Oh, that. Yeah. Hell, yeah.
and
Hell, yes.
and here's the thing. One of the things you're going to realize is that that part of you, that inner child that still has that wound, that still has that crave, that still needs that hug, or whatever that again, whatever your top love language is, there's 5 of them. Whatever you
Okay.
need to get your battery charged,
Right. Right.
a lot of us as children never got it.
Yeah.
So, and
Yep.
we were pushed down at the thought of asking for it. Like how
Yeah.
dare you ask for time? How dare you? And it wasn't necessarily said as how dare you. It was just like, we don't have time for that.
Yes. Yes.
And it's
Yep.
like, and your little kid self is like, all I wanted was to do this thing. All I wanted was to right? And I will tell you as an adult now, I recently got to go to Florida to spring training and go to a baseball game with my dad.
Okay, cool.
I cannot emphasize enough how much I cherished that time
I bet. Yeah, I could see
because
that.
I didn't have it as a child. And so now, and it's not even making up for lost time, but it's in the space of I can name it now and say, this is the thing that I
Right.
want.
Yeah.
This is the thing that I
Yep.
need. And
Mm.
empowering myself to be in the space of, and the thing is, like with the other person, with my other family member, right? We drove to get my brother at the airport, and
Mhm.
it was like 2.5 hour drive, and then like a half
Mhm.
an hour driving around waiting for the plane, waiting for them to get outside and yada yada yada. But
Right, right.
we had the best time just cutting up and laughing and just telling stories and whatever. And I was like,
Yes.
honestly, for the rest of the trip, my battery was full.
I
And then
bet.
we had,
Yeah. I
and
can
we,
understand that. Yes.
just having the one-on-one time. And then we also got to go to Walmart for, rando shopping. And again, we had the best time just hanging out and spending time. And a lot of us are terrified
Yes.
of even making the ask. And here's my encouragement to you. If you have a listener who's listening to this and they're saying, yeah, I feel like, be brave enough to ask. Be brave enough to say,
Yes.
and here's the thing, have the conversation in the bathroom while you're driving. Practice the conversation and practice allowing yourself to be in the space of like, you have a frog in your throat all of a sudden, or you suddenly feel like your chest is tightening, or you suddenly feel like you're like shaking because
Oh,
you're,
yeah.
let yourself feel
Yes.
those things, and also let yourself be in the space of you as the adult saying, listen, it's okay to ask. It's safe to make the ask. The worst thing that they're going to do is tell us no. The worst thing that's going to
True.
happen
Very true.
to me, myself, and I is that it's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to be reparenting my inner child through a no.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
haven't
Being prepared for
gotten,
that. Yeah.
honestly, but 1 or 2 rejections in doing that. And
Wow. Very good.
here's the thing too, is you also get to teach people who never learned how to feel emotion, how to hold space, how to regulate, how to get in the space of like, this is happening because this could be happening because of this. Can I support you in releasing that?
Mm-hmm.
They might tell you no because they're terrified of, because, they didn't know how to feel emotions and they're still all these years later, because it doesn't
Sure.
leave until it leaves. But here's the thing, going back to the point I made previously, is when people are in their anger
Mm-hmm.
and they become the big scary monster,
Right.
and everybody's afraid to piss them off. Everybody's afraid to
Yeah.
make them angry. Everybody's afraid to upset them, right?
Yes.
Because that person has a inflated sense of self
Very true.
and power that's false.
Okay.
But if you feel powerless in general over your emotions, etc., you are going to grab onto anything that gives you a sense of power.
Okay. Makes
So,
sense.
for example, someone I know years ago lost a spouse, and the grief was insurmountable. The grief was,
Oh, yes. I bet.
because losing a spouse is just one of those things. Losing a spouse or a child, one of those things that you're just like, gut me. Like,
Yes. Yes.
um, things no one should ever have to experience, at least not when they're
Yeah.
under 50. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
this person also started having all the tales of, and this will happen to people, if you've not processed being bullied, grieving other deaths,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
experiencing anger or resentment or shame or anything else from previous
Right.
experiences. Grief has tails. What I mean by that is you're grieving the dead person. I'm going to just use my hand as an example. You're grieving the dead
Okay.
person. Okay. So any prior dead people that have never been grieved, anyone that you didn't have time to stop and grieve, how many of us?
Mm-hmm.
I'll grieve
No.
when
Yeah. Yeah.
any anger from any time in your life, any
Okay.
resentment, any shame, any guilt, any whatever else, all this stuff is hanging out. So your little jellyfish of grief, you have the original
Mm-hmm.
thing. So the person lost their spouse and they're moving along, moving along, moving along. And they hit a certain point where the bullying came to the surface. The
Yeah.
rage and the anger about the bullying came to the surface. The grief over previous people who passed away that they didn't grieve because they didn't know how. Again, grief is a skill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The resentment that that person's gone, then they can't be, and a lot of people have that thing in their head where they can't be angry at the person who's passed away. They can't get angry because they're dead, and
Yeah.
I love them, so I can't feel angry.
Yep. Yep.
So all this stuff is going along, and they get to a point where they don't have the resources to feel it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to survive in the present. So the hand
Okay.
that all the stuff that's hanging out here that doesn't know how to deal, all of a sudden becomes a closed fist.
Okay. Interesting.
And that turns into, "Rawr! If you piss me off, I'm gonna go off." The rage monster.
Just ready to, yes, to explode, basically.
So
Yes.
everybody
Mm.
now is walking on eggshells around that person and lying,
Oh, yeah.
deceiving, doing whatever they gotta do, being quiet, not angering the person. It
Yep.
upsets them, so we're not gonna talk about it. So now they're controlling a thing,
Oh, yes.
and the suppression is still here.
Yes.
Don't piss off so and so because here's the thing, eventually that is going to explode.
It will. Oh, yes.
And I will give you an example, not from the same person that I was talking about.
Okay.
Probably 2018, 2019. One
Okay.
of my friends was in a car accident. And he
Hmm.
was in a car accident. There was 4 people in the car. It rolled over. They got T-boned, and basically
Oh,
a spin and roll type thing. So big thing.
wow. Yeah.
And everyone was seatbelted in. They had a Subaru. It did its job. Subarus are remarkable vehicles for doing their job.
Yes. I have one. Yes. They are awesome.
Um, and so like there ended up being like 4 cars involved, and they were on the way to, I knew this person because they were on the way to a Spartan race. And
Okay.
so they get in this accident, and we all heard about it on the news, and we're all like, that night we get in and whatever, and someone was like, "Hey, did you hear about the car?" There was, there might be some people who aren't here because they're, they got involved in this wreck or they're behind it or whatever, blah,
Mhm.
blah, blah.
Mhm.
Long story short, this dude ends up in the emergency room just to get checked out, whatever. And his injuries are relatively minor because, again, they all luckily, like, they got T-boned, but
Right, right. Yep.
okay. And he's sitting there, walking in on the 2 people that got minor injuries, but again, nothing like, oh my God, whatever.
Right,
And
right.
we get a text message saying, "Hey, are you anywhere? Is anybody near the whatever emergency room?" And most of us were like an hour and a half away because of where the race venue was and where we were
Okay.
relative to the venue. And one person goes, "Well, I got to go pick up someone at the airport anyway, so I can hit there. Sure, I can come there, whatever." And they're like, "Okay, well, can you
Mhm.
bring somebody with you and drop them off at the emergency room and then go get the person at the airport and then come back because the person this happened. We have 2 cars worth of people.
Wow.
One of them was involved in the accident. The other one saw it. And all of a sudden, this one guy who happened to be the
Okay.
driver is on the floor in the fetal position, sobbing, like
Wow.
uncontrollable sobbing. Can't stop. Oh my God. Just like, no, he's incoherent.
Wow.
He's incoherent for a good solid 30
Yeah.
minutes. and everybody's trying to help him and whatever, and the whole thing. And they don't have any idea like what's going on, whatever, so, so forth. So they finally get him like,
Yeah.
so they put him in a bed next to the friend who's doing okay, whatever. So the other people are kind of like going between the beds.
Mhm.
And he finally stops sobbing long enough, and they're like, "Okay, like, what in the world?" So, like, "We're gonna get you checked out, blah, 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 whatever." And he's like,
Yeah.
and he blurts out, "Sarah died." And everybody's like,
Okay.
"Yeah." Like, What? Who's
Yeah.
Sarah?"
Yeah.
Like, Sarah wasn't
Uh,
riding with us, and, like, "No, dude, everybody survived the car accident, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Your car's probably totaled, but everybody survived the accident."
yeah. Right,
And he's
right.
like, "Sarah died." So then he's repeating this, and all of a sudden he's in hysterical sobs again. And everybody's like, "Okay, who the hell is Sarah?" So no one knows who Sarah
Yeah.
is. Well, Sarah turned out to be his little sister. This is a
Oh,
guy who is like 27, 28 at the time of this whole thing happening.
okay.
Sarah passed away when he was 13.
Uh,
He never grieved it. So
mm,
he's holding on to the guilt and the shame about he didn't cause it, but having caused the accident. And
yep.
um, I'll save that story because it's not mine to tell. But again, you lock all this stuff away for so long. And so he's going
Yep.
through these cycles of like randomly saying stuff over the next 24 or so hours in the emergency room where he's like sobbing, sobbing, sobbing,
Okay.
sobbing, sobbing.
Yeah,
And what
yeah.
he was doing was he was releasing these heavy layers of grief and sadness and
Yeah.
shame and whatnot. And
Right,
as
right.
those layers, the emotions coming out, so the emotions barfing all over the floor, and then all of a sudden, it's like
Yes,
he
yes.
bleeds all of that layer out. And then it's like you catch your breath, and then you have another aha because the next thing behind it that was stuck
Yeah,
comes
yep,
out.
yep.
And the thing is and I tell people, I'm like, you can outrun it for so long, but you will
Yep.
hit a point where you're like, eh,
Yep. It eventually will come out just like that. Wow.
yes,
No. So, Jilly, I mean, this is your coaching that you do. So,
yep.
how do people find you to work with you on dealing with what you do?
They can find me on my website, jilliemaria.com, JILLIEMARIA.com. And there's multiple buttons there where you can book a consult with me. Like you can book a 20-minute discovery session. We
Okay.
can talk through
Okay.
what's going on. And there's a couple different ways to work with me. I'm offering group coaching as well as one-on-one coaching. People find me via word of mouth. A lot of times, like I have a group on school, that they can
Okay.
explore. And, again, it's, a lot of times it's like working with me for a while and, doing different freebies or whatever and realizing like, oh my God.
Mhm. That yes, they're not even realizing they have all that all that pent up.
Yes, because a lot of
So,
people don't. I mean, a lot of
no,
people
I mean,
don't. They just think. I mean, if you grew up with a rageaholic parent or grandparent, or a caregiver, or
mhm.
you grew up
Uh-huh.
with a parent who suppressed emotion, which a lot of us did. If
Mm,
you're in your 30s and beyond, you
mhm.
probably grew up with a parent who said at least if someone said to you or you say to your two kids, if you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about. That is I don't know how to feel emotion, so we're just going to push it over here.
We should have yeah.
You're
That
hoarding, but you're not
I
hoarding
know that.
stuff physically. You're hoarding emotionally, you're hoarding
Yeah.
mentally. And it gets to a space where it's like
Yes.
realizing that like who you are and how you show up in the world. And
Yes.
a lot of us
Yes.
don't realize like what we're even doing. Like people legitimately don't.
Yes, very much.
Again, it's a skill where it's like we don't even know what the hell we're doing. Never mind being in the space of like, oh, we're not supposed to do that. And it's like,
Yeah.
well,
Yep.
everybody has all of the emotions. And I tell people all the time, if you put a wall up, if you put a
Mhm.
wall up to disallow yourself to feel any what I call the fear. I don't call them negative emotions because they're not negative or positive. They're just fear-based,
Just
basically.
emotion. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
So if you're in a space where you have a wall up and you have a 10-foot wall up and you're like, I'm not going to feel anger or resentment or whatever, I'm always in a really good mood. I'm like, okay, here's the thing.
Mhm.
If you're disallowing yourself to experience anger, sadness, grief, etc., you also can't feel
Mhm.
love, joy, contentment,
Oh, yeah.
etc. Because the
Makes
wall
sense.
doesn't know
Yes.
anything other than its energy and motion, and we don't feel it. So a lot of times people are like, I'm great, how? And there's no depth. And I always
Yeah.
tell
Very
people,
superficial. Yes.
you want to know if someone has emotional availability, if somebody has emotional depth, put them in a space where they're going to feel something less than great. Put them in a space where they're going to
Okay.
put them in a space, for example, where they are, it's out of their control.
Mhm.
I knew someone years ago who was engaged to this guy and everybody loved him. He's a great guy, to his face, he seemed like a great guy on the surface. They ended up at a
Mhm.
ground stop in Newark, New Jersey. There's no
Okay.
planes going anywhere because there's a snowstorm.
Oh, yes.
So ain't nobody going anywhere, no matter how much of a fit you throw,
There
etc.,
there's
etc., etc.
Yep, yep.
Well, she had a death in her family, so the two of them were traveling together. They're planning a wedding, whatever, and
Okay.
she was like, I'd never seen him like anything other, like he was always in a good mood, whatever, whatever, whatever. So they're
Okay.
like, there's a ground stop. No one's going anywhere. We apologize. We got the last plane out before they called it. The nor'easter's coming in, blah, 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 blah. There's nothing we can do about it.
Right.
So he goes up to the ticket counter and rages
Oh,
rages
wow.
on the people, and he's like, we gotta go to a funeral and blah, 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 blah. Like, and they're like, well, sir, if it's really that important
Wow.
to you, you could always rent a car and drive to your destination.
Right, right.
Okay. Funeral was outside of Boston. So you've got probably, in normal conditions, like a 7-hour-ish drive in normal
Mhm.
conditions.
Yes. In normal, yes.
So it's like, but she was like, oh my God. Like, and then he started raging on her in the airport.
Oh, I bet.
And so they broke up in the airport, and she's like, just go get on a plane. She's like, I'm going to rent a car. I'm going to drive to the funeral. You're not welcome. Bye-bye.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was like, and people were like, oh my God, that's super. Like, so she gets there and like, where is she's like, I don't want to talk about it right now. I'm here to grieve my person. And,
Mhm. Right. Yes.
but again, and it's funny because she will tell people, when they're dating or whatever, she's now married to a great guy, yada, yada. Anyway, but the point is that she was like, I dodged a bullet because you don't know until someone is in a situation where they have no control over the situation,
Yes.
what they're hiding, and being in a space where he's screaming at the gate.
Truth.
He is yelling at people. He's raging at me. He's like, people are telling him to calm down and like, it's not appropriate behavior. And he's raging at them and he's rah, 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 whatever, whatever. And she's like, baby, it's okay. Like she was trying to be like,
Right.
listen, we're going to get there. We have an extra day built into the schedule accidentally. So
Yeah.
it's cool. Like we'll get there, but this will pass. They'll plow everything and we'll figure it out.
Yes.
And it was like,
Yep.
but again, emotion will always find you. And
It does.
figuring out who people are, and here's the thing too, is when you start to allow yourself to feel emotions and process them properly, you will
Mhm.
also run into your intuition.
Interesting. Okay.
As you
That
start, because
makes
here's the
sense.
thing. When people think that joy is out there or happiness is out there or the things they want is out there,
Right.
it's important to recognize and realize that actually the happiness you seek is within you and you radiate it
Yes.
out.
Yes.
And when
Amen.
you're in a space where you're radiating like, oh my gosh, I just love this thing so much, and you're
Mm-hmm.
elevating your energy level.
Yes.
I love so many. I love this. I love this. I'm so excited for this thing, right? More of that
Uh-huh.
feeling state can show up. So more things that
Yes.
bring you that healing state get to show up, as opposed to being in the space of, right?
Yeah. Right.
But it's interesting because people get into spaces sometimes where they feel like, and I see this a lot in the spiritual spaces where,
Okay.
people will say things like, well, how do they want the exact steps to open up their intuition like it's a door? Like,
Okay.
like I've got 10 doors. Tell me which one is the one that opens up my intuition, like takes me this whole
Mm-hmm.
cute little world. And if I'm just
Okay.
spiritual enough, then I will
Uh-huh.
never have a bad day. And I'm like, you can't spirit out spiritual your human
Mm-hmm.
experience. You are still going to have, you can meditate, you can do yoga, you can
Yeah.
do all the things, you can play with all the crystals,
Yes.
you can do whatever you want to
Yep.
do. You're still going to have days when you're like, "Ah," and
Oh, yes. Very much.
right? And
Yes.
also the thing is when you start to allow yourself to feel all those emotions that you've suppressed, your intuition starts to show up.
Okay.
Everybody has intuition. Some of us call it clairs. Some of us call it a gut instinct. And I had somebody a couple years ago who said to me, "Oh, I don't believe in that crap." And I said, "Remember when you posted about 6 months ago that you posted about how you missed a car accident by like 10 minutes because you had this gut instinct that you left something on in the house. So you went back to your driveway, you parked, you went inside the house, made sure the thing was turned off, got back in your car and drove, and you missed an accident because you would have been right there had you just gotten in the car and
Yep.
left." And they said,
Yes.
"Yes." I said, "That is your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
It
Definitely.
is your sixth sense."
Yes.
And they're like,
Oh,
"Okay." And I'm
yes.
like, now, how your intuition shows up is individual to each of us. Some people are going to be clairvoyant, which is the most common one, which is your third eye, which is like seeing something, having flashes of
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Clairaudience is clear hearing. So you might hear something as if someone's speaking to you.
Okay.
You might have clairsentience, which is like getting goose flesh.
Okay.
Or like goosebumps. You might, or like like rolling chills sometimes. Like one of my friends gets rolling chills if she's in a good space. She's in a rolling chills. If she starts to feel hot, she knows she's in a space that she should not be in, and she either backs up, figures a different, reconfigures herself, etc. Claircognizance, which is clear knowing, like you just know, like you know.
Yes. Yes.
Um, like one of my friends a couple years ago that happens to be very strong claircognizance. She was um getting on a cruise ship and she just had this really bad feeling, like just really like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know those feelings.
right? And so she was like,
Yep.
"I cannot get on this cruise ship." And so she was like like they're starting to board and she's like, "I can't do it. I can't do it." And she started like getting physical symptoms. Like she was getting the notion like driving to the port that like, "No ma'am, like you can't get on this cruise ship." And so she was supposed to be meeting some other people. She called, she's like, "I can't get on the cruise ship." Like now I'm having physical symptoms. Like I'm like, my legs are really tight and like I'm feeling
Right.
really nauseous and whatever. And within 24 hours of that, she's sitting in the hotel, the cruise departs, whatever, and she's not going to be having a good time in Cancun, whatever, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Somebody in her family passed away.
Okay.
So she had to get on. So she like changes her plane ticket, gets on the plane, goes back, goes to the funeral, blah, blah, blah. She's like, I wouldn't have been able to say goodbye to them if I'd been on a cruise ship.
True.
So the other ones are clair gust, which is clear tasting, and clear
Okay.
lanes, which is clear smelling. And and then there's also clear empathy, which is like, and it's not the same thing as having empathy. It's being in a space where you like feel others' emotions as your own. And then there's another one that
Okay.
I don't remember the end part of it, but it's where you feel somebody's symptoms, like physical symptoms as your own. Like if you're in a
Really?
space where like had one of my friends a couple years ago where she'd be totally fine. And all of a sudden she'd be around somebody who wasn't feeling well and she would like feel unwell. And she'd be like, I have to dip. I
Wow.
don't, what? And I'd be like, okay. And then
Right.
she'd like leave. And then 20 minutes later, she'd be like, I feel okay. I'm like, well, then come back. And the person that wasn't feeling well would leave and she'd be like, what the hell is that? And I said, I said, you're taking other people's like feelings as your like
Right. Right.
symptoms as
Yep.
your own. And she was like, how do I quit that? So we, got that figured out. Another
Yeah.
story. But it's in the space of one of the things I found with my clients is as they heal suppressed and repressed emotions, they start
Mm-hmm.
to naturally come into their intuition. And a
Very
lot of times
interesting.
they'll say, well, how do I, like, why am I suddenly like seeing things, knowing things, hearing things, whatever the case is? And it's like, well, because
Mm-hmm.
that's your intuitive gift. That's your strongest clair is that particular thing that has shown up. My strongest happens to be, for me, my strongest is clairaudience. And for other
Okay.
people, if I'm doing readings and whatnot and client work, my strongest is clairvoyance. And that
Okay.
I typically will mirror whatever other people's strongest clair is. Like if I'm working with someone and their strongest clair is,
Okay.
clairsentience, I'll get chills repeatedly through a reading and being like, I'm getting chills around this thing. And it's as a confirmation that this is you're on, that you're over the target, if
Okay.
you will. Um,
Wow.
but again, a lot of people have this notion of they have to do something a certain way because a lot of
Right.
spirituality teaches people that if you do a thing a certain way or you don't do a thing a certain way, that something is going to happen or you're doing it wrong, or, there's the space
Right.
of like the perfectionist piece in us, the other side of the people pleaser,
Yep.
which is the backside of the abandonment wound is if I don't do this correctly, then I'm not going to get the thing.
Yeah.
And I knew someone a couple years ago who she had a dream catcher and above her bed, and she said,
Mm-hmm.
she's like, do you ever cleanse it? I said, yeah. I said, however often you think, like you have a bad dream. I said, if you literally have a bad dream, I highly recommend taking it down. And one of my friends, I said, it's a kind of a good physical idea, if you will. I said, so you take it
Okay.
and put it into a bag that's big enough that,
Okay.
like a trash bag, and then shake it out. So you're
Right.
basically shaking the bad energy out of it.
Okay. Cool. Okay. I mean, so do you speak in front of people? I mean, live audiences, or in front of groups
I
about
have.
all this? Okay.
I have done a couple. It's one of the things that I want to dive deeper into this year. Again, speaking one to many, because I realize that it's not just woo woo. It's not just a, spiritual space.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
a realizing that this affects and impacts every single one of us in our daily lives, and being in a
Yeah.
space
Yep.
of like, what if you're in a space where you're like, I told somebody, I said, what if you're in a space where you're no longer angry? And the person looked at me like I
Mm-hmm.
had three heads. And I said, well, we have this notion that we're running around pissed off at life. And I'm like, you're not. You just don't know how to feel your emotions
Yes.
because no one's ever taught you to feel your emotions.
Yep. Yep.
So therefore, you have a failure to feel, as opposed to, and again, it's a learned skill.
Oh, yes.
And so teaching people to be in the space of like, listen, I always also recommend spiral journaling to people, which is where you set a timer for 5 minutes and you write down whatever the first emotion that comes up. So you set a time. I always say 3 to 5 minutes, set a timer and
Okay.
write down physically, like whatever emotion comes up. And it might be,
Interesting.
I'm like
Okay.
anger. So you write down anger and start writing down, I'm so angry, I'm so angry, I'm so angry. Not because I want you to absorb and become the anger, but because when you say that and you start stripping it down, you start writing it and burning into it, the more
Right.
you push
Right.
on that button, you break the button. And so you get to the space of like, okay, I realize
Yeah.
I feel anger about this thing, that thing.
Right.
And then you can extrapolate that and be in the space of writing a letter not to be sent to the person, or, you know, getting up and dancing it out, or going for a run, or, you know, whatever the thing is that
Right.
screaming into a pillow, whatever the thing is that will allow you to release that energy safely.
Yes.
Because once you do that, you shift. And once we get in the space,
Mhm.
I tell people, anger is sadness's bodyguard. Sadness is guilt, grief, and shame's bodyguard. When you get it,
Okay.
when you feel through, because it's all layers, right? It's all peeling an onion.
Sure. Yeah.
So when you get to those core emotions and you go, okay, I allowed myself to feel the anger, and then sadness showed up. And they're not necessarily going to show up that linearly. Like you can be
Right,
like
right. Yes. Yeah.
crushing tears, and then all of a sudden, like I've had clients that have been like sobbing hysterically, and all of a sudden they're like, I'm so angry. And I'm like, okay, cool, that's good. Keep going. Because you will
Yeah, yeah,
burn
yes.
through and then
Yes.
you'll burn through the grief, the guilt, the shame, the melancholy, and then you start getting to the space of like, and your body softens because your body is no longer guarding against, your body is no longer like survival mode, like we cannot feel this,
Right.
like it's
Right.
waiting for the next impact, as opposed to being in the space of it's because a lot
Mhm.
of times when people will start to feel happiness for the first time, it's not
Wow.
innate in them. In other words, feeling
Wow.
happiness feels super uncomfortable because they grew up around people who suppressed. They grew up in addictive households. They grew up
Right.
around people who were rageaholics. So they didn't feel like
Mm.
it was like, what are you so happy about?
Mm.
Or, well, you can't be happy when there's, you know, children starving in China, or you can't be happy
Yeah,
when
well,
and it's
yep,
like, oh
yep.
my God. Okay, yeah, but that's
Yeah.
exhausting.
Yes. Yes.
And I used to be that person who would be like, oh my God, whatever. But then it was like, my being miserable and angry and sad because you're experiencing a flood, or you're experiencing a hurricane, or there's starving people somewhere in the world, or there's someone
Right.
who's experiencing a death right now, isn't helping anybody.
No, it isn't.
And I would tell people, I'm like, I'm like, if you want to like firsthand account, like when I was on my sofa sobbing my eyes out because my best friend had passed away,
Mhm.
you feeling pissed off or sad over there wasn't helping me.
No.
Like you were not doing anything for the cause.
True.
And a lot of people don't realize it. It's like you can sit here and be mad at for so and so, but they don't need you to feel like I don't need you to feel angry on my behalf because of my traumas. Like, well, how are you feeling about this? I feel fine. Well, you're not mad about
Mhm.
such and such a thing? No. Well, you should, and then
Mhm.
you should feel okay. Here's
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah, you should, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
You should be mad because blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. When when Harvey Weinstein was convicted of rape and sexual
Mhm.
assault,
Mhm.
one of my friends reached out to me knowing that I was a survivor and said, "How do you feel about it?" And I said, "Actually, I'm really happy about it." And she was like, "Wait, what?" And I
Yeah.
said, "Sweetie, he's going to spend time behind bars." And she
Mhm.
said, yeah, but you," and I said, "How should I feel?" Because I said, "According to you, how should I feel?" Because the reality
Yes.
is he's part of the 5%, the whopping 5% of
Mhm.
people who are rapists or sexual assault predators who spend any amount of time in jail.
Yeah.
And I said, "So I'm happy. I'm sad for his victims. I'm mad at the
Mhm.
situation, but I'm not going to hold on to it. I'm not going to make a whole big, I'm like, I said my piece on social media and said, this is where I'm at, ba, ba, ba.
Yep.
This is
Yep.
why it's
Yep.
important. And I'm moving on
Yes.
because the only thing you do when you hold on to anger and rage and you refuse to process it, because you're usually, in parentheses, because you're waiting for someone else to validate it or join you in your,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
is because you're waiting for someone to clap for you, as opposed to being in a space of, listen, this thing happened. It really sucked. I got support for it. I healed it. I'm moving on. Because
Yes.
otherwise, you're a handle for somebody else. And what I mean by that is, someone is angry, they're enraged, they're looking for you, they're looking for people who are also easy to trigger.
Yes.
Because if you ask people a lot of times why they're mad about something, like my trick is, tell me more about that.
Mhm, mhm.
Like, I'll see people on social media and they'll be like, "Rah, rah, rah," and I'll say, tell me more about that.
Uh-huh.
It is the easiest way to shut people up because they're looking for a fight. They're looking for somebody anonymously to barf on.
Yes. Oh, yes.
As opposed to, yeah, well, I feel angry because I feel out of control, or I feel like this isn't under my control, or I didn't vote for this, or I didn't choose to this, or I don't like the
Mhm,
way this
mhm.
storyline's being written, or I watch this show, whatever it may be, as an
Right.
escape from reality, and now the show is pissing me off, so I don't know what to do.
Yep.
And so it's like, okay, so you have emotions that you need to take responsibility for, number one.
Mhm.
And number two, go express them, feel them. I don't really care how you feel them as long as you're not hurting somebody else. So go for a run,
Right.
go for a hike, go get in the car,
Yes.
turn on the music, jam out, go put your car in neutral or in park and step on the gas pedal and just rev it and
Yes.
just scream.
Yep. Yep.
Get it out of
No,
your
I can
system. Beat a
yeah.
pillow, sit on the edge of the sofa and just beat the crap out of a sofa cushion. Ask someone to witness you and say, like, I just want to scream. I just need you to scream back. When I scream, just scream back.
Yep. Yes.
Because that's how we start to learn to move emotions and to have emotions, like move emotions through us so that we can get to the calm and the contentedness and the joy that's underneath all of that gunk
Yes.
that
Yes.
we've toppled on top of it and thrown in the trash and thrown in the trash. I'm like, okay, because most of us,
Yeah.
honestly, most of us are two things. Number one, we're carrying around 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag,
Mhm.
90% of which isn't ours, whether it's beliefs,
Yep.
thoughts,
Yep.
feelings,
Yes. Oh,
etc.
yes.
And
Yep.
most of us are small children in adult bodies.
Interesting. Yeah, I would agree with that. Definitely. Never thought of
So
it that
whatever
way, but yeah.
whatever the
Okay.
trauma is, wherever you got stuck as a child, wherever you got in a space that's not safe to feel and you clamshelled,
Mhm.
that's where you're stuck, the age you're stuck at emotionally. So it could be 4,
Okay.
could be 7, could be 8, could be 10, could be 15, whatever. Something happened, and it doesn't have to be a big T trauma. Right? Like, no one has to die. No one has to be assaulted. No one has to necessarily, have a death. Nothing like that. It can be
Okay.
as simple as someone bullied you, or,
Yeah.
you sat in a grass stain and people made fun of you. You wore white
Yeah.
pants to school and you went and sat on the grass and you got up wrong and you got a grass stain on your butt and people made fun of you because kids are cruel. Or,
They are. Oh, yes.
your alcoholic mom showed up to pick you up at school and she was in an alcoholic rage and she just was, whatever. And, she was you're in high school and she's flirting with the boys around you and you're just ashamed, embarrassed, humiliated, whatever.
Yeah.
That's the place where you stop
Yes.
emotionally. And so it's like we're looking at all these adults in the world, especially common with men, because men are not taught how to feel emotions and men are not taught that it's safe to emote
Very
in the
true.
first place. And so
Yeah.
they a lot
You're
of times are
definitely not.
walking
Yep.
around with like, they're humiliated or they're emasculated or there's, something happens or they lose their job or something happens that they feel some kind of way around and they don't know how to express it properly. And we also have made, our society has also made it wrong, bad, shameful for men to have support.
Yeah.
So instead of being like, yeah, I need a therapist or I need a coach or I need a counselor, I need somebody to help me out of this hole. Like they don't even want to admit there's a hole in the first place.
Yeah.
And being like, well, this happened. And, it's like, I've known, I could give you examples for days of different people in different situations. But the fact of the matter is, I'm a really big advocate of anybody over the age of 5 gets to have age appropriate coaching, counseling, psychotherapy, psychiatrist, church counselor, some third party person to
Okay.
hold the space for them, teach them how to feel emotions, reframe things for them. That doesn't have, and yes, having a spouse is lovely to bounce things off of or whatever, but they have an emotional, mental, physical, financial interest in how you're doing life.
Yes.
Having a
Yes.
third party person who has none of that to say, yeah, it's great that you're whatevering, but what if your spouse needs this? Or what I'm hearing you saying is that you and your spouse have grown apart. What if the two of you went on a date? What if the two of you mix things up? What if
Yes.
the two
Yes.
of you stop being roommates? What if whatever? Because we all know that
Yep.
we have a
Yep.
spouse. You hear
Yes.
things differently when your spouse says it versus somebody else.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
I mean, you can hear, I've done this before where I've been like, when I've, been having a conversation with a couple, whatever, and they're talking, and I'm like, have you ever thought about ba ba ba? And I have no anything of the conversation.
Yeah.
And the person goes, oh my God, that's a great idea. And the other partner's looking at me going, and looking at them going, I said that like 6
Yeah.
months ago. But again, we have a
Yeah.
natural
Now just
psychological
right this minute.
filter that's like,
Yep.
wah,
Yep.
wah, 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 wah. And then somebody that you don't have a filter for comes in and says, what about ba ba ba? And you go, yes. And they're
Right on
like,
through. Yes. Yes.
I'm going to
Yeah.
box your lights out. And it's like, listen, but
Yeah.
we all have that
Yeah.
filter. Everybody
We
has
do.
that filter where it's like, this is the situation, right? And so
Yes.
my encouragement to people is step into the space of realizing that everything is learned.
I would definitely. Yes. Yes.
And, I have people all the time that will say, well, how do I come into my clairs? And it's like, sometimes you stumble into them. But,
Yep.
I mean, I had one of my craziest experiences was I was sitting in traffic on I-95 southbound, and we are dead stop. And I happen to look to my left, and there is a jackknifed USPS teal cab
Oh,
truck.
yeah.
In the median is probably like 30 or 40 feet wide. And I'm like, man,
Okay.
and I'm like, and I look at it like it just happened. And I'm like, wow, why aren't there any sirens? What the hell's like, okay. Like I almost want to
Yeah.
put my car in park and go check if they were okay. Right? Like what happened?
Right. Oh,
So
yeah.
every traffic starts
Yep.
moving again. And I, go to the next stop and I get off the stop and I happen to Google USPS mail truck accident, South Carolina. And it had happened like 3 years previously, single car accident, guy had a medical emergency, went off the road, hit a tree and died.
Wow.
So I was like, make a mental note when you're driving back up I-95. So I had made a mental note and to where the city was to see the exit, to see if it was still there on my way back. And it was like, oh, wow, it's not there. Like, okay, did they clean it up? Or, I was like, why you wouldn't leave an accident, right? But it was just interesting to have this notion was like, that's my clairvoyance at work. And like, wow. And I told someone else, like, I don't know that I would want to have that gift. And I'm like, well, you don't really have much control over how your clairs show up. You do have some
Yeah,
control over
true.
volume and
Yes.
such, but you don't really have a whole lot of control over, like, I'd rather be clairvoyant and see all the things versus I want to be clairaudient, or I want to have, like, one of my friends, her strongest clair happens to be clairgust. So she like has
Mhm.
taste. And so she knows, like,
Okay.
she knows when someone's lying because she tastes metal.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
And I was
Very
like, and I said,
interesting.
"How'd you find that out?" And she said, "Well," she said, "I was having a conversation with someone, and I knew that this guy was like, it was just a social conversation. It wasn't anything like life or death or anybody cheating or anything like that." But she said this guy was talking, and it was like he was telling this girl next to me, like, you know what, he's just BSing around, whatever. And she had this like metal taste in her mouth that she could not get rid of for anything. And she was like, "What in the world?" And so
Hmm.
they leave that night, and her friend was like, "He's a lying sack of crap, right?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, he's drunk and he's just BSing, whatever." So she just kind of kept
Mm.
noticing when it would show up. And she was like, she was in a meeting with her boss, with her boss and another person. And the person was not being honest. And she was like, I need to get a glass of water. She's like, I have this metal taste in my mouth. And they're like, okay. So she goes and gets a glass of water, and she's like, oh crap. Oh my God. Like, they're lying. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. Oh,
so it's that space of
so
like how, just how they show up in your life, how your clairs show up in your life,
yes,
how your intuition, how your
yes,
gut instinct shows up in your life. That I find
yes.
interesting too. So yeah.
I do too. Jilly, I think before we end the podcast, I got one question I have to ask you because you're on the Dreamcatcher podcast. When you were growing up, what did you think you were going to be? What were your dreams?
I was gonna be a lawyer.
A lawyer.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, I was gonna be a lawyer.
Cool.
And, I was gonna wear really fancy suits, and I was gonna drive a BMW, and, I yeah, that was kind of what I was gonna have, a garden like my grandma.
Very awesome.
That's about the piece of it that's actually come to fruition, is the garden. Um,
Okay. That is good.
but yeah, that was my dream when I was a kid. And, you know, now it's like big, big, big dreams in the next, 2 to 5 to 10 years. But again, the world keeps changing so fast that
It does. Yes. So, well, Julie, we're going to share all how they can contact you in the show notes and everything. But
awesome.
thank you for being my guest. I
Thank
mean,
you
I
for
find
having
this
me.
so intriguing. And oh my gosh, I look at this like we talked the first time. You make me look at everything so much differently than ever have, which is so awesome. So,
I love it.
but yeah, need to keep in touch. And
Absolutely.
if and thank you again. And you're probably getting close to the end of your day there, so, I'll let you
Yes.
go, but
Thank you.
thank you very much, and, take care.
Thank you for having me.